Hey everyone, it's your favorite host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have an expert coming to the show here to help us talk about, he's actually a certified divorce financial analyst, one of 3,000 in the entire world. And this man is here to help us talk about how we can do better when going through the divorce process financially. This man is a gem hidden in a mountain of hay, and I found him here for the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. So you won't want to miss 1 second of what he has to lay down here on this exciting episode. Stay tuned, stay with us. Here we go. Hey everyone, it's your host, Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And I have today coming to the platform, Mr. Jamie Lima. There are plenty of wealth building gurus out there, aficionados, but this man is a true blue in here, living, breathing. He's like you, he's like me, and he's here to help us get to a better place. If you all find yourself in a situation where you've ever been experienced the rough patches of divorce, or talk to anyone who has gone through a divorce, not once, not twice, anytime, it's always the same. It's always difficult. It's always hard. After going through a tremendously expensive and emotionally draining divorce himself in 2017, this man sought after and went on an absolute mission and launched his company, Allegiant Divorce Solutions, as a sister company to his financial planning firm, Woodson Wealth Management, to help you, to help me, to help all of us get to a better place financially and come out maybe a little bit better through the divorce process. So this man, I can't hold him back. Without any further ado, help me welcome to the stage, Mr. Jamie Lima.
Wow. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to live up to that introduction, man. That was awesome.
Oh, you already did, sir. It's all you. I'm talking about you. Thank you, sir, for making time for us, my audience today on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. You are necessary and you are doing a fantastic work. And I thank you for being here today with us. And we are going to dive into the sauce, sir. My intro of you did no justice. And I really want to pinpoint something here, because you are an expert, a professional, certified financial planner. Love that designation. And also you branched off into divorce. You went through a divorce yourself, but what was the catalyst? When did you know? I want to ask you, when did you know, unfortunately, your marriage was going south for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Nobody's asked me that. Even on all the podcasts I've been in. That's a great question. I feel like for me, it's one of those things where you kind of know about 3 years ahead of the time when you say, like, listen, it's time for us to go our separate ways. It was probably about 3 years leading up to it. There were a number of things that were involved, number of reasons why it came to fruition, and we ended up, in the situation that we were. But it was probably about a 3-year lead up before I had the gall, so to speak, to be able to say, hey, listen, this is just not working. I think we need to go our separate ways. I had really wanted to start doing this divorce financial planning work that I do now. I wanted to do it about 10 years ago, maybe 10 or 12 years ago or so. And I was with a big name company. If I mentioned their name, everybody would know. But at the time they were like, well, we don't really do that kind of work here, and we don't want you to get bogged down in it. So, and we don't want it to be a distraction. So, put your head down, kid, and make some more phone calls. And I listened to their advice, which was unfortunate, because a few short years after me, approaching them with the desire to go down this path, I went through my divorce, and had I had the experience, the hands-on experience, the book knowledge, of doing this work, and the experience of working with the court systems and the attorneys and so on and so forth, I probably would have put myself in a much better position. But that's effectively what propelled me to do the work that I do today.
That's major, and you're right. There are warning signs, there are triggers, there are things we all notice in the beginning when that key moment when we know the relationship was going south. And so, did it sounds like you were the one that initiated the divorce? Am I correct?
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, full disclosure, and I think this is, we had always had an agreement that she would stay at home and take care of the kids, for a period of time, which I ensured that we could do. And it finally got to the point where the kids were in school full time, and it was a matter of like, okay, now it's going to take two people to row this boat here. Let's start using our education and the experience we have and so on, start to build our careers together. And unfortunately, she didn't want to have any part of that. So I was like, okay, I guess this is how this is going to go. And I for me did not want to be in a relationship where it was going to be just me responsible for the financial future of my household. I hadn't done that enough. I had done that for 12 or 13 years at that point, and it was never the agreement for me to be in that position. So the writing was on the wall, and it was time for me to go in a different direction. There was a variety of other issues that were present, but from a financial perspective, that was one of the impetuses for sure.
That's huge, and I thank you for being so open, so transparent, because that's real. You are real. At the end of the day, the designations are incredible. They're necessary for what you do business wise, but at the end of the day, you're a human being, right? And you did the work. You set up front. You know, I have no problem supporting you, which we all want that, right? We all want a partner to support them. You reminded me of a friend that went through the same thing. We had a discussion, we had a roadmap, a plan of you'll stay at home with the kids um, until the kids, and then the kids grow up, right? But I think we don't, you looked farther enough ahead to say, okay, also, when there's no need for you to stay at home, then we'll transition to both of us contributing to the household as well. And not to say that a stay-at-home mom doesn't contribute, but financially, in dollars and cents and tangible sense and money, we'll transition that way. And sometimes people don't follow the agreed upon path, and that's big. That's huge, huge, huge.
It really is, and we work with a ton of stay-at-home moms. And I have all the respect in the world for the women that do, and even the stay-at-home dads. There's a lot of stay-at-home dads that are out there, which is, they are much better men than I am, because I went to work to go relax. Right? We had three kids under the age of 12 or whatever it was at that point. And I don't know if you have kids, but I'm sure a lot of your listeners do. And sometimes it's like chaos, right? You're working all day long, and then you have kids activities, and they have school functions, and they have homework and all this other stuff. I'm like, forget this. I'm gonna go to my nice quiet office, get my free coffee, have adult conversation all day long. This is like I'm digging this, right? But so I could never be a stay-at-home dad. That's just not me as a person. But I totally respect the people that do that work, because it is, and I say this to a lot of the people that we work with. It is not easy, and there is it when if and when a divorce happens, you should be not necessarily rewarded, but you should be compensated rightly for your role in managing the household, and helping your spouse with his or her career and so on. I totally understand all that, but at the same time, like you mentioned, if there's an agreement in place, and this is the plan, and I'm a planner by heart, right? I'm the type A financial planner, all my ducks in a row, and I want to know what's happening 1, 3, 5, and 10 years down into the future. That's just my nature. If I have that plan in place, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you decide you want to disrupt that, that's a problem. At least for me, it was, and that's ultimately where why things went the way they did.
I want to highlight this, ladies and gentlemen watching this. I want to highlight something he's saying. Right, he's not removing the value of a stay-at-home parent. He's acknowledging himself. He know thyself. Right,
Mm-hmm.
he's acknowledging himself and saying that stay-at-home dad is not for him. And someone changing the plan without communicating to the other party is a no-go in any scenario, whether it be business, personal, relationship, any of the ships, right? Relationships, right? when you change the plan without communicating to the other party, that's a no-go. And that's not fair. That's not fair. So someone had a different intentions when the kids got older, and that was no longer a part of the plan. And Mr. Lima is acknowledging the pride and admiration to those that decide to stay at home, because there is a dollar value to what you do, but it's all a part of a plan. So stick to the plan. And if you can't agree with the plan, something should have been said in the beginning. Hey, I have no intentions of going back to work at all, right? And that allows him the opportunity to adjust as necessary. But
Mhm.
you know, we got to work with what we got, and I know just by, you can tell the big heart and big nature of this man, that he did what he had to do for the betterment of everything and peace of mind, right? So powerful, powerful, powerful. Round of applause for Mr. Lima. This is huge. So thank you again for your transparency. I want to get to the science of this, because I've never heard of your skill set, your designator. You are a certified divorce financial analyst. Can you explain what that does and how you specifically assist clients at your company, Allegiant Divorce Solutions, please?
Absolutely. And most people understand the role of a financial planner in general. I think for the most part, people understand that role. And I'm a certified financial planner. So we've taken our education and the work that we do and the ethics and everything else to a higher level, being certified for that work. But I think a financial planner, as we all know, they help people with things like planning for their retirement and estate planning, insurance needs, 401k plans at work, helping you with your executive compensation at work, all of those things, all more of like forward looking things. Like how do I achieve the goals and objectives that I have for the next 5, 10, 20 years of my life, and one day be able to retire and do whatever it is I want to do. That's the traditional financial planner role that I play. With the specialization as a certified divorce financial analyst, CDFA, we help everyone with all of the financial nuances of a divorce. Okay. So we'll help with things like dividing up, figuring out the best strategy around dividing up assets in the divorce. Do I keep the 401k or do I keep the house? We'll help with how taxes impact some of those decisions, child support calculations, alimony, spousal support calculations. We'll help with budgeting and cash flow, because day one of your newfound single life, after the gavel hits the table and the judge says that you're divorced, you need to figure out how you're going to be able to live your life, and you need to know what kind of money is coming in, what kind of money is going out, and we'll work with you on budgeting and cash flow needs and that type of thing. I'm also a certified mediator, so one of the things we'd like to try to do is keep people out of the courts by way of mediation. And through that process, we can help people come to a fair and equitable agreement that is financially feasible for everyone, and do it for a fraction of the cost, and put the control back in our client's hands by mediating the case. So there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack, but think of the role that we play as a CDFA as helping you make decisions in the here and now relative to the divorce, and making sure you make good decisions so you can walk away from this thing. There's never a win-win, but how do we help you lose less is ideally where we're at. And then how some of those decisions that you're going to make impact you in the future is where we layer in the CFP role that we play as well. So there's a little bit of both roles in the work that we do, but primarily CDFA's help in the here and now relative to the decisions you have to make as part of the divorce.
Powerful. I hear you. I hear you and I see you, brother, with the here and now. But a lot of the things you're describing are, I can see there's a benefit almost in even before the marriage, right? Even before in the pre-marital stages. Is there any work that you do beforehand? Are there any work that you can do in marital counseling, right, to kind of just put these things on the table beforehand? Because you're talking about figuring out the money, the assets, the kids, the child rearing, but those are all things that I feel people should be discussing before they even hit the other gavel, where the judge hits the other gavel and
Yeah.
say you are now married. Any pre-planning there?
Well, I think people overlook this all the time because there is such a stigma associated with it. But if we could just remove the stigma from prenuptial agreements and that the concept of the prenuptial agreement, if we just reduce that stigma and just eliminate it altogether, I think we'd be in a much better position. A lot of us leading into the marriage. And I'm a big fan of therapy, and I'm a big fan of couples counseling and all this stuff, and that type of thing, and all this helping you handle the psychological aspects of the divorce. But I guess the way that I look at it is we have homeowners insurance if we buy a house. We have auto insurance if we purchase a vehicle. We have life insurance to ensure that if something happens to me, that my family's going to be okay. We have umbrella insurance. I mean, the list goes on and on of all the insurances that we carry. Why don't we have marriage insurance? It would make so much more sense if we just agreed to put marriage insurance in place before we sign on the dotted line and create this. You're basically creating a corporate structure, right? So, but there's so much emotion involved in getting married and all the love and the rainbows and butterflies and everything else. And people fail to prepare for the worst. And having a prenuptial agreement in place as marriage insurance, I think it could be a game changer. But there's such a stigma around it. Nobody ever wants to consider it. And we talk about it with all of our wealth management clients, especially the younger ones that are going down this path. Just at least make sure we have this conversation with them. Do they always act on it? Not so much, but at least we've had the conversation.
You've tried. You've done the work. You've
Yeah.
done the work. At least you brought it up, right? That's a part of that fiduciary responsibility that you have as a certified financial planner. So it carries over, I'm sure, in the same realm as a divorce financial associate expert. So it sounds like you are for prenuptial agreements. Did you have one? Did you have a prenup?
I did not. My to be honest, in my situation, we didn't have real. I mean, we met when we were 21 years old, 22 years old, and dated for a few years and then got married. So there really weren't many assets at stake. So that's the other challenge that a lot of young people that are getting married, young newlyweds, face is they don't really have anything, and they're kind of building all this wealth together. So, prenuptial agreement is not really going to help in that regard, but, certainly for second marriages, or in situations where what we're seeing these days is that people are waiting a much longer period of time and dating for a much longer period of time before they get married. So, if you look back, 20 years ago when I was in that relationship, we didn't have any assets. It wasn't that big of a deal, but some people are coming into these marriages where they're work in the technology sector. They have stock options and executive compensation, and they've really started to save for retirement. They have a pretty sizable 401k, and they have savings. We see young people that have real assets these days. So I think it's more as we move forward, and that becomes more of the norm than it was even just 20 years ago. I think there's going to be a much higher appetite for it. And again, if we could remove that stigma, I think there would certainly be many more people that are actually going down that path of getting the prenup.
There it is. You said it. You said it again, and I'm glad. This is good. I want to stick a pin in this. The stigma that you're referring to, right? When I hear the word prenup, I think when most people, especially women, when they hear the word prenup, they think that famous movie scene where she's sitting across this long extended table, I'm sitting on my end with my lawyers, and I slide you a piece of paper, say sign here or else, right? That negative, nasty movie trailer stigma is what is usually, I feel, is prevailing in people's mind when it comes to a prenup. But and I think that's what you're speaking to. And I feel I'm confident with you, and I stand by what you're saying, that if we can get past that and realize that prenups are not as negative as people think. I had the pleasure, the honor, and the courtesy of interviewing a lawyer on the show who specializes in divorce, but she primarily advocates and specializes in helping people develop well thought out prenups. And she came on the show and debunked a lot of myths behind prenups, right? Now, one of the things that shocked me was that you can't, in a prenuptial agreement, you can't order your partner to not date anyone. Oh, I don't want, if we divorce, I don't want him to bring anybody around my kids, any other girls around my kids. Legally, you can't do that. You can't restrict who he sees or who he spends time with after the initial divorce. That's illegal, and that's a illegal act against his rights. What are some things that you have seen as a professional? What are some top killers of marriages that you've seen in your professional opinion? What are common?
The biggest one, I don't know if this is necessarily a marriage killer, but it is something that comes back to haunt a lot of people once they have decided that they want a divorce. And that is failing to participate in the financial affairs, conversations, decisions of the family home. What we see a lot of times, and I'm not trying to be sexist here, so please don't take it that way, but I've been doing this 20 years, and there is definitely a theme. Usually it's the man who is the financial decision maker in the home. He's been, mom staying at home. Traditionally, mom stays at home, takes care of the kids. And, the husband is the one that is, the breadwinner, kind of just like it was in my situation. We'll use my situation as an example. I worked, Monday through Friday. I was outside of the home. I traveled some, so I was gone a lot. But I was the breadwinner, right? I had the retirement accounts, and I had access to the bank accounts, and I would be very diligent in monitoring the cash flow and all this other stuff. And my now ex-wife didn't really participate in those conversations. Didn't really know how much we were putting away for retirement, how to even log into the bank accounts, right? And it wasn't because there was financial abuse involved, because some people will do this where they'll try to hide this information for people so they can, have, things going on off to the side, like marital affairs, or they have a gambling problem or whatever it is, and they want to hide that from their spouse. That was not the case here. It was just a failure to participate in the financial conversation, the family conversation that you have to have around finances. And then what usually happens is exactly what happened to my situation, is that once the divorce is finalized, they're clueless, right? So you don't want to be that person. You want to be sitting there in your financial advisor's office with your spouse, making decisions together, learning more about the investments you have and how you're planning for retirement, what that retirement's going to look like, and what your plan projections look like. And that way, if God forbid it comes to the point where you are going to have to get a divorce, you know what is going on, and you're not. And we see this happen not just in divorce. We see this happen with death and dying. I work with thousands of families over the years, and inevitably you lose a client or two every year because somebody has passed away. If you're not participating in those conversations, you're trying to make financial decisions in this tornado of emotions that are going on, instead of allowing yourself to say, you know what, I know where my financial advisor's office is. I know how to log into my bank accounts. I know what we've saved for retirement. I know there's an insurance policy over here that's going to help me. I know what our financial plan looks like. Now I can just focus on mourning the loss of my loved one. So whether you're mourning the loss through death, or whether you're mourning the loss of relationship by divorce, you need to be able to process those emotions and take time with that. And if you're trying to do that at the same time, you're trying to figure out how to log into your bank account because you didn't participate all these years, it can hurt in more ways than one. And I see people lose out because of that. So that's a killer right there.
He said it. He said it, y'all. This is huge. I have a background in finance, and too many times the husband, like you said, the example is more common than you think. The husband is a breadwinner. The wife is a stay-at-home wife, even long after the kids are grown and adults. And then the husband passes away. And too many times, though, I've had too many mothers, too many spouses come to me with a stack of papers this thick and drop it on my desk. And because they don't know where the money comes from, they know how to spend the money, but they don't know where the Social Security come from. She don't know the difference between Social Security and pension money. She don't know the difference from 401k money. She don't know where the life insurance is. She don't know who to call. She found all this stack of paper and she dropped it on my desk, and she wants me now at the end of his life to figure out where all of this is coming from and how to turn it off and what to turn on and how to initiate, who to send a death certificate to, which life insurance policy is still active, which is no longer active. It's a huge mess. And I remember Dave Ramsey said, at their financial meeting, and you can imagine as big as Dave Ramsey's legacy is, you can imagine how in-depth and thorough and how many financial advisors and aficionados he has on his team. But he had to grab his wife by her face and pull it in close and say, honey, this is important. I need you to pay attention at this meeting, because she was so disengaged at these financial meetings. She wasn't attending all the meetings. She was just like, oh, whatever, I know you're going to set me up. He's like, no, you need to be involved. You need to know who to talk to. If something happens to me, that the company isn't going to fall to Riker and just dissipate because I'm gone. So huge. One more round of applause for that. Spilling tea. Mr. Lima is spilling all the tea here on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. Sir, that's huge and that's major. And without, I know you have to protect the rights of your clients, but can you share a story, if possible, about the worst divorce that you've seen? What's the worst divorce you've seen someone go through financially?
We do work with a lot of people that have had some pretty challenging situations. Luckily we have, a handful that are, things are very amicable. They're willing to work together, and, they just want to move on with their lives. A good majority of them are not that way. We work with a lot of people. We have a handful of clients right now that are in situations where there's domestic violence involved. I have one who she's living in a shelter, and we're trying to, make sure she has enough, cash flow coming in to be able to feed herself and her kids while the dust is settling on the divorce. There's some pretty awful scenarios out there. From a financial perspective, the case that comes to mind is one that we're slowly wrapping up. There were about 1,400 pages worth of discovery in this particular case. There's stacks and stacks of information, and it comes back to my comments just a moment ago, where this gentleman, if you want to call him that, was trying to financially abuse the wife in such a way where he has LLCs that have multiple, and then they do multiple things, but some of the LLCs that he has own other LLCs. So there's all this money flying around. He's pulling a draw from this LLC, but he's taking this money and putting it into another one, and that company's doing something else. And there's this spider web of transactions that we're working to untangle and help her understand, really, at the end of the day, what she owns. And we're a couple months into this, of working on this project, and it's a little bit slow going because we're getting information in fits and starts. So we get piles of information, then we get nothing for a couple weeks. But this one's one of the more challenging ones that we've worked on, at least this year, for sure. And a lot of it comes down to her not participating in the conversations, her being very, unaware of what some of the things that she was signing off on. I mean, they have real estate that she bought that she didn't even know she bought, because he was just like, hey, sign these documents and I'm going to take it from there. And, there's a little bit of shame on you for doing that, because now you're trying to figure it all out, and it's complex. And that's a big challenge, man. I mean, but there's also that element of financial abuse, which we see a lot. And if it's hiding financial information and trying to confuse the other person and do some things that are not necessarily the most ethical in order to hide money. We have business owners that hide a ton of personal expenses in their businesses that we have to search for and add back to ensure that our clients are getting their fair shake, and that payor, in this case, the business owner, is we're showing exactly how much money they're making, and they're not, we're not letting them hide it, which can be a challenge.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I see what you were saying. Thank you for that. That's major, y'all. There are some real monsters out there, y'all. There's some real monsters out here. And Mr. Lima and his company are here to help you take those monsters out. If anything, make you more aware of what your options are and what your possibilities are. So the power in having wise counsel, you can't get any better than Mr. Lima and what he's doing, because as you just heard, there are some monsters out there, and you need to arm yourself with professionals and true professionals, real professionals with a heart of gold, that are going to take you by the hand and say, listen, you'll get through this, but I need your help. And they'll work with you side by side, Mr. Lima and his team, to make sure that 14 pages of I imagine this ain't bold print documents. This is tiny ink documents that he's forging through to find this woman what she's entitled to. That's not easy, and it takes a true heart of gold to do that. So shout out to you and your team, Mr. Lima.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
that's incredible.
1,400 pages. I don't know if that's probably the most we've seen so far. 1,400. We had to actually go out and create a table of contents for ourselves in the document, because that way we knew, like, okay, the Merrill Lynch account is on page 712. Or as opposed to having to sort through all that information all the time. It's pretty crazy.
That's intense. Speaking of divorce, I don't want my sponsors to divorce me. You can find this podcast on anywhere: iHeartRadio, radio.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, Facebook business page. We are going to go to a quick commercial break. We're going to pay some bills. We'll be right back for Mr. Lima and more. Stay with us. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Baby Gear Services DMV specializes in high-quality baby gear rentals in the Maryland and DC metro area. We have a wide range of baby gear items for rent, including wooden cribs, car seats, high chairs, and more. We also offer seasonal specials and free delivery. Our prices are very versatile to cover every budget. Wooden cribs start at $17 a day, high chairs and even car seats start at $5 a day. Check out our website, www.bgsdmv.com.
Are you a local business looking to offer your customers easy access to cash without having to travel miles? We're here to help. At Norman Legacy Investments, we provide free ATMs with free installation that provide a suitable investment for your business. Even better, we offer you some profit sharing and handle everything from start to finish. Just reach out to us today to schedule a free consultation.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We have the incredible, Mr. Amazing, Mr. Grand Poobah himself, Jamie Lima, certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst expert, on the show here today on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And he is spilling some absolute gold nuggets to help you, to help me, to help all of us do better going through, or potentially about to go through, the divorce process. If you missed any of that, go back, scroll back, and check him out. It is absolutely phenomenal and absolutely powerful. Sir, in this day and age, because you mentioned this earlier, there's it's not the Stone Ages anymore where the man is making all the money and women's suffrage is a real thing. And so especially back in the day, you go back 100 years, women didn't have the right to vote, education, or a job. But that is no longer the case. Women are running Fortune 500 companies and tackling major industries that were predominantly occupied by men these days. And so can you break down or point out some tips, some strategies, some mindsets when dealing with high net worth individuals in a marriage, on when you're talking to couples that equally have a high net worth? Are there any strategies or tips or things they should consider before coming to you and reaching out to you?
Relative to divorce or traditional financial planning?
Divorce. when it comes to divorce? What things should a high net worth individual think about when not only the man but the woman also has some money to lose as well financially?
Yeah, great question. We have a really good resource that people can download for free just on our website, which I'm sure you're going to provide the links to the site later. But on our website, there's a free resources page, and on that page there's a document list. And with the document list, it'll allow you to start organizing the information you're going to need to start to gather, not only from the other side, but for yourself as well, to be able to put together your case. And I mentioned earlier about the 1,400 pages worth of discovery. Well, we are getting a lot of that in fits and starts. We're getting tax returns, one day, the next day we'll get a statement for something else, and so on and so forth. So if you look at the, if you go to there's an inventory checklist, right? So we have the household inventory checklist. Well, I guess let's just walk through this whole page here. So we have the inventory checklist, and the beauty of that checklist, which should be loading, there it is it allows you to literally go room by room in your home and document the important possessions, right? I don't know if you need to go through the exercise of counting underwear. We actually had a case with this. This is not a joke. We had people that were counting their personal belongings down to the number of underwear, pairs of socks, which was a little bit crazy. But you can go through use this worksheet, and we don't ask for email, phone number, and all that other stuff. Like we're not going to put you on a spam list. You can go to the website, download the document, and then you walk around the house. Like, okay, I ended up getting, this art from my grandmother after she passed away, or my aunt's, the china she gave us at our wedding. And you just start documenting all this, and like, who owns what? Is it something that we bought together? Is it something that was given to me? So on and so forth. And that will give you a good opportunity to make sure that when you start going through negotiations and figuring out what you're going to walk away with, it'll help you with the negotiations, right? Like, well, hey, you keep that set of furniture. I'm going to take this other set because, we're now going to have two homes that we're going to have to furnish or whatever. That's been super helpful. There's also a document list on there that I mentioned earlier. It's going to give you the list of things that not only ourselves and your attorney, if you have to go the route of getting attorney, is, and it's just going to give you an opportunity to just say, like, hey, listen, like, here's my tax returns, my W-2s, so on and so forth, because you want to be as organized as you possibly can when you come into meetings with us. And we want to spend less time rifling through it or sending you back to get information. So if you come prepared to conversations with folks like us and your financial planner or your attorney, it's going to be really, really helpful. I'm trying to think, and I think one of the bigger things really is taxes. So we want to know who your other professionals are. We want to have a relationship with them. If you have a financial planner, we want to be talking to them. If you're going to get an attorney, we want to be talking to them. And the more high net worth these divorces are, the more is at stake, and the more coordinated these efforts across your professionals need to be. And a lot of times we'll quarterback those conversations, and sometimes just leave you out of it because we can work with your permission. We can work with those folks on your behalf and help take some of the work off of your shoulders, so to speak.
By the way, y'all, this is a free resource. That checklist, you have no idea, Mr. Lima, how well you do, but my audience, you guys have no idea how important and significant and powerful that checklist is, especially if you're a high net worth individual. I had a friend, he was a warrant officer in the Navy, going through a divorce, and the gentleman, he came to work one day and he was just bawling tears. His eyes was red, puffy face, everything, face is swollen. And I asked him, I said, what's going on, man? And what had happened was, his family, in his family, his line before he got married, there was like this token, this family heirloom that was passed down to every firstborn male son. And it was a model ship. It was a model ship, one of those model ships that you craft in the jar. And it was passed down from son to son to son. I think it got all the way to like 20 generations of men. So you can imagine how long that is, right?
Yeah.
And in his proceeding, in the divorce process, he had to leave the house. He couldn't go home. The wife was in the house, and all he wanted was his ship, his family heirloom. Right, it had no value to her. Right, it had no value to her, and all he wanted was the ship. And one day, that day that I saw him crying, he had drip, and don't ask me who the guy is, but he had driven by the house, and he went in the trash can, and he found the model ship, and the jar it was in shattered to pieces. And so that checklist is powerful, because you can am I correct, is it for both parties for them to just go through and say, hey, this checklist here, this is significant to me, I would like to keep it. Am I right, Mr. Lima, or is it just for
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's we use that in mediation. So when we go through mediation with some of our clients, and when you mediate a case, so this is very, very different than the divorce financial planning that we do, because the divorce financial planning is usually a contested situation. Right? They have attorneys, or they're going to be involved in the courts. Now we're there to help people with their argument towards why they deserve what they're asking for in the divorce. Well, mediation is an uncontested situation where you have two parties that just want to avoid sitting in the courtroom, and they want to handle this like adults and get through this process together. And one of the things that we have to do in order to get an uncontested divorce is we have to check the box on about 20 or 25 things in order for the courts to accept the agreement that we draft. One of, I shouldn't say one, but a section of those 25 things is personal belongings. And we have situations where, we'll just, like, the wife brings her list, the husband brings his list. We sit together and go, okay, well, here are the things that she's asking for. Here's what you're asking for. How can we make this work together? And, then you just let them hash it out and work on an agreement, and they can walk away knowing that they're not leaving anything on the table, and they're going to be able to walk away with everything that they want. And it's also a way for you to inventory the asset, because if something does go missing, there is recourse from a legal perspective, right? So if you, going back to the contested situation, if it is contested and you're arguing over possessions, and then and your situation is not unheard of, right? I mean, I can show you pictures of my belongings in a trash can after I left my house. So, and for the record, that is domestic violence. Okay.
What the ship?
If you're the ship and throwing away somebody else's possessions like that, that is a form of domestic violence that you can have recourse against. So,
but when you're married, it's what's hers is mine, and what isn't it, right?
Well, this is post separation, right? So we're we might still be married on paper, but we're living separate lives, and this is going down the path. It sounds exactly like the same situation that your friend was in. So, yeah, in my particular, we didn't go the route of getting requesting a domestic violence training order or anything along those lines. But there's that. You don't just get to like ruin people's things because you're angry, right? And if I had gone through this exercise myself, another mistake that I made in my divorce, I'm not perfect, even though I'm in this world. I made mistakes in my own divorce, and this is why I'm so adamant about other people getting access to these tools and resources, because I probably left $20,000 worth of personal possessions in that house that I walked away with, and I never got access to any of them. My God. And you don't want to be that person. And it's all part of the negotiations, right? I mean, it's like, hey, no problem, I'll give you that stuff, but I want credit on the other side for something else, because you're just not going to walk away from assets, tangible assets. And having checklists and just being able to document some of the stuff is incredibly powerful in these cases. Super,
super powerful. Okay, I want to. This is necessary, right? I want to be very respectful, right? Because I got women that watch this show. So, Can you speak to the emotional aspect, right? Could you, in your experience, how does the emotional aspect of divorce impact financial decision making, and how do you guide your clients through these challenges when dealing with emotions?
Emotions are a divorce killer. And when I say that, and I mean, hey, listen, 90% of the clients we work with are female. So I recognize that there's emotions involved, and we work really, really hard to help people contain them and make pragmatic decisions. And the way that we do that is trying to remind all of our clients that they are now the CEO of their life. Right? Marcus, I'm sorry you're getting a divorce, but you are now the CEO of Marcus Incorporated, right? And you're going to have to start making better decisions. Like, you're going to operate like the CEO of a business. All of your and your soon-to-be ex-spouse is a former employee or soon-to-be former employee. You're going to be very pragmatic. You're going to be very practical. You're going to set the emotions aside, and you're going to make sure you, especially with your communications with your ex-spouse, you are going to leave those communications out of this process. All of your emails are very short, concise, to the point, and you're going to leave the emails out, right? No emailing, no war and peace emails about how they broke your heart and all this other stuff. There's no, 150 word text messages, none of that stuff. Because sometimes that stuff ends up in the court of law on a gigantic projector screen for the public, the judge, your ex-spouse, the attorneys, and everybody to see. And you want to make sure that that's not going to happen, because if it does, it could impact the case. So it's very, very difficult, but you have to try to remember to be the CEO of your life, especially in this particular case. There are some amazing resources out there that people should be leveraging. And this kind of goes back to I have all these little mottos. Another motto is when you go down this path, you should be creating Team You. You have your therapist to help you handle the emotional aspects of things. There are people that are out there that are called the divorce coaches. I had no idea these people existed when I went through my own divorce. I really wish I would have known that they existed. We work with a number of divorce coaches, and they will help you not only on the emotional aspects of the divorce, but help you through the process and understand what comes next, and how to think through mediation, and how to strategize around it, how to work with professionals like us, and so on. And they will help you with all those things. So you have the emotional aspects handled over here. We help with the financial, and then there's usually an attorney involved. And then the one thing people do not want to forget to help handle the emotions, just come back to your question, is to not push loved ones away. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I made in my own divorce. I just tried to keep everybody at arm's length because I didn't want them involved. I didn't want them to think that to worry about me. I didn't want them to have to be involved in the conversations about it. I was like, listen, I've got this handled, and then started pushing family members away instead of bringing them in and helping them understand what I was feeling and being there to support me. And by doing that, I actually lost some family members because of it, which is incredibly sad. But if you let the emotions get involved, and you don't have all these pieces of the puzzle together, and you're not handling all of them, it is going to lead to bad financial decisions. I just see it time and time again.
Wow. This is epic. This is huge. And you, sir, are spilling some absolute tea. You are a true professional in this game, and he's speaking to me, y'all. He's talking to me. So I don't know about y'all, but this is necessary. This is huge. And this is the type of thing that I feel like we should have had, 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. Is an expert to really, he said it, emotions have no room for this, right? We're going to be coherent, responsible, mature adults during this process. And if we could get both parties on the same page, we would find that, it makes sense. Hey, I want that ship. That's a family heirloom. It means nothing to you. Can I please have it back? Oh yeah, I don't need it. That's clearly yours. Let me give it back to you. But you need that mediator. You need that professional, that man in the middle, that woman in the middle to help us negotiate those terms and just say very plainly like that, like, this ship means nothing to you. Give it back to him.
And she couldn't contain her emotions, right? So rather than going and punching a pillow because she was angry, or screaming into a pillow because she was angry, she decided to take it out. And effectively there's some violence there, right? I mean, you're destroying somebody else's possessions. That's violence because you can't handle the emotions. And who wins? Who wins in that situation? He's devastated, and she's still getting a divorce. Doesn't change anything. So why bother? Why bother?
It's a lose-lose. Have you had any cases where they started on the path of divorce and they would start working with you, and then they're like, "No, we're gonna work it out. We're gonna fix things." Any of that?
Yeah, we've had a couple of those cases. We've had a couple of those cases where there's some level of reconciliation, or I don't know how long that's going to last, given what I know about the cases. But they're certainly let's give it one more go because there's a lot at stake here. And I think even just spending time with us and reviewing the financial information and what's at stake, and we don't work with both parties unless we do mediation. So we do one of two things, right? So we're either an advocate for a party, we do some mediation, and then we'll also do what's called kind of a collaborative, amicable divorce scenario, where we'll work with parties and other attorneys and other financial experts that want to get them through the process in an amicable way. So I said there were two ways, but there's really three. So there's the amicable, there's mediation, which is just the three of us, the husband, the wife, and myself, usually walking through the mediation process, or we come in as an advocate. And in many cases, when we are the advocate and we've helped them understand what is at stake, and like, this is how much you might be paying in alimony, this is how much is going to go out for child support, this is how you're going to have to divide these assets, this is what it would look like if you were in the court of law, and how the judge would usually agree on this. It can sometimes put people in a position where they're like, oh wow, there really is a lot here. Let's give it another go and see if we can make this work, because there's a lot at stake. We'll see, only time will tell how that actually transpires with a couple of these cases, but there's been a little bit of reconciliation. Yeah.
Okay. So it's not all lost, but if you guys want him, right? If it's not mediation and you guys need Mr. Lima on your side, you want to book him first, right?
Yeah. We can't do mediation if we started as a mediator. We can't do both, right? We are either a mediator, and we're going to come in as a total neutral. We won't give anybody financial advice. We won't give anybody tax advice or legal advice. We're just going to facilitate the divorce agreement. That's where, so if we start down that path and then it starts to fall apart, we do have to refer out to another CDFA because we cannot take that case because we've been conflicted out, and vice versa. We can't start as an advocate and then go into mediation because there are conflicts of interest we have to be aware of.
So I want to make sure I nail this, right? If you start with me, you can't transfer to mediating both parties because you started
Correct.
with me with the financial advice and diving deep with me and giving me advice. So you can't
Correct.
switch roles. And then vice versa. If you mediate both parties, you can't now take the wife's side or the husband's side in it. You can't switch.
Correct.
So I point that out because, ladies and gentlemen, that's key, right? Because you know your partner. Mr. Lima and his team does not know your partner. You know your partner. You've been married for however long. You know your partner best. So if you know out the gate, when you bring up, hey, I have this gentleman, I found him on this incredible podcast with a microphone, and he can mediate our case, and she says, hell no, you want to be the one to call and get Mr. Lima on your side so he can give you the best advice possible. Because if she locks him down or he locks him down, it's too late. He can't go the other way. Yep. So powerful. This is gold. I'm gonna get you out of here on this one because I want to be very respectful of your time, but I can't pass this over. Can you discuss the importance of a qualified domestic relations order and how it impacts retirement assets in a divorce, sir?
Absolutely. The qualified domestic relations order, or Quadro, as it's used interchangeably, is effectively a document that is created in order to divide up retirement assets in a divorce. So this is things like 401k plans, 403b plans, 457s, TSAs, all the government, your friend's military pension for being in the military, things of that nature, right? This is not in relation to individual retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, Roth IRAs, it's not in relation to those. Those are owned by somebody individually. These are plan sponsored type of accounts. So what happens when you get to the tail end of the divorce and you've decided how you're going to divide up those retirement assets? Let's just say, for example, you're going to split the 401k in half. Well, you need a qualified domestic relations order, or a Quadro, drafted by a professional to then send instructions to the 401k plan. It has to be accepted by the plan which is ultimately what makes it qualified. Until it's been accepted, it is a domestic relations order. It is then qualified by the plan sponsor. They'll send notification back and say, okay, we agree to the terms of how this is drafted. It checks all the boxes, and the plan sponsor. But I used to work for a company called Fidelity Investments, so we'll use them as an example. They will open up, a company like Fidelity will open up a second account for the spouse. They will then transfer half of the 401k plan into the new plan for the spouse who is receiving those assets, and the document will be filed away at that point. So that document has to be drafted by a professional, has to have all the preferred language. It is incredibly technical. It is incredibly time consuming. And if you don't get it right, it can waste a lot of time and money. So we provide that service for all of our clients, but we actually use a third party they do about 3,000 or 4,000 of these a year. I started doing that work, and I realized that it was taking way too much time, and it was very, very boring. And so I do not like doing that work, but we will coordinate with that team, and we'll also work with the plan sponsor, and we'll also work with our clients to ensure that they're getting they're getting their fair share and dividing up the right way. And we basically quarterback the whole process on our side, but it is very, very time consuming, and you can make a lot of mistakes with it if you're not careful.
But you're familiar with it. So even though you may not be the one drafting it, you can help me understand it, right? You can still explain.
100%. I've seen 1,000 of them in my day. I worked for Fidelity Investments for 9 years. So we've worked with a ton of 401k plans. Pretty much everybody we work with had a 401k. So we've done this a bunch of times. And another free resource, if you go to the blog on our website, there is a Quadro guide that you can go and review all the terms and how it works, what the process is, and so on and so forth, all on the website. More free resource for you.
The gentleman style mascot like that one. We like that one. The mascot likes that one. He said the magic word, y'all. Free. It's free. It don't cost you a thing. It's absolutely free. Sir, this has been an epic conversation. This has been an epic interview. You have shared so many tips, so many nuggets. Sir, what do you see coming down the pipeline? Looking forward towards the future, what are some emerging trends in divorce financial planning that you think our listeners should be aware of?
Well, I think it's gonna get more complex and more complicated because our lives are getting more complicated, right? I mean, people that we work with, I don't know about you, but my grandparents and even my father has a pension from the company that he worked for. Only about 3% of companies now provide a pension for their employees as a retirement benefit. So now the onus is on us to save for retirement in our 401ks and so on and so forth, which means that we have more wealth to deal with, right? We're not relying on the company. We have our own self-made wealth, and that's in the form of homes that we own and rental properties and retirement assets and so on and so forth. So it's not just I have my 401k and I might have a pension and then that's it. There are a lot of moving parts. So I feel like this is only going to get more complex and more complicated. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the people that are now in their 20s and 30s, most of their compensation with a lot of these companies that are out there is through the form of executive compensation, stock options and RSUs and all the employee stock purchase plans, all of that stuff. And you have to understand all the nuances of all of them. So you have to understand that it really is just so much more complex these days. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when people were getting divorced, they didn't have to worry about dividing up Bitcoin. Now you have to worry about that stuff. And things like airline miles and hotel benefits, all of those ancillary things didn't exist even 20 years ago. So that's where we're starting to see all those things, start to come to a head now and be involved in some of these discussions. And again, it's only going to get more complex. So I feel like I'm going to be gainfully employed for the foreseeable future.
Mr. Lima, you've shared so many nuggets this episode, and I know you've dropped a bomb today on this interview. Sir, if you had one more nugget in the hat, that young man, that young woman out in the audience, her back's against the wall, she's going through a tumultuous divorce. The man is conniving, there's hidden money everywhere, there's Bitcoin, there's stashing. Any final nuggets, any word of advice to that young boy watching you right now on the stage? And what would you say to them right now and give them one more nugget of advice on what to do?
Somebody very early on in my career told me to use my resources, use your resources. And I feel like we don't do a very good job of doing that sometimes, right? Sometimes the answers you need are out there. You just have to go find them, right? You have to talk to professionals. You have to talk to mentors. You have to talk to family members. You have to do your own research. And then sometimes you have to do even more research on the research that you've done, right? But you have to use your resources. And there are resources available to you that are out there. I mean, we're providing tons of free resources, guys. Right? Like all the free resources that are on the website. We put out, we're putting out 2 or 3. We have a Facebook group called Preparing Financially for Divorce. And we are, we're gaining momentum on that every single day, but 3 or 4 times a day, we're putting out free information, tips and tricks and things you need to be thinking about and trying to share content and video content and all the stuff that's out there. It's available for the taking without having to sign up or give us your credit card and all this other stuff. So, and I'm just one person, right? We're in a small team here. There's tons of people that are out there that are doing the same thing. And you just need to go out there and just access the resources that are available to you, because they're not going to come to you. You have to go out there and get them.
Facts. This has been an incredible episode. This has been informational, insightful, and epic. I love what I do. I love this. I love this. Sir, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I want to tell you to never give up. We need you. We need what you're doing. We need what you're putting down. We need the facts. We need the help. We need help. So continue to do and never quit.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And thank you all, my audience, for the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this message was insightful. I hope this was epic. I hope this helped you the same way and more than it helped me, because Mr. Lima is what he's putting down is phenomenal and it's necessary. So we got to be respectful of this man's time. He has many more people to help, many more families to help through the divorce process. So we got to let him go. So time has run out on us. But like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the incredible, the amazing Mr. Jamie Lima, super fragilistic espialidocious, helping you get to a better place. Signing off. Love you guys. Bye.